I'm Robb Taylor, inviting you to join me each and every Wednesday at 6 p.m. for 90.7 Perspectives. 90.7 Perspectives is a live call-in talk show where we give you, the listening audience, an opportunity to call in and share your views. 90.7 Perspectives, right here on your station for jazz, blues, news, and views. WVAS.
This is 90.7 Perspectives, a cultural, political, and social chat.
The two of us together work with every victim, and we follow their case from the very beginning.
You're paying for the cost of education. Folks who are not supposed to be here at all, you and I absorb that cost.
Oh, I say it's the best time
to be the best time. I like that.
It's the best time to be a Hornet.
And now here's your host, Robb Taylor.
Well, good evening and welcome to this week's edition of 90.7 Perspectives on WVAS FM. I'm your host, Robb Taylor, and tonight in the studio with me is Pastor E. Baxter Morris. He is pastor of the First Baptist Church here in Montgomery, located on North Ripley Street. Also, a little bit later on, Chief Deputy Derek Cunningham will stop by as well. He's been invited to join us on tonight's program. We wanted to take some time tonight and have a dialogue with these two gentlemen regarding black teens and trying to figure out why teens in general, not just black teens, but teens in general, are acting out and what is going on with our black teens nowadays. So we're going to need you, the listening audience, to help us out here. You can dial us up. I want to give the telephone numbers so that you can dial us up and share your comments. So if you have a question for our guest, feel free to do so. You can reach us at 269-6785. Locally, 269-6785. And if you're outside the Montgomery area, and to our friends listening to us on the World Wide Web, WVASFM.org, we invite you to dial us up as well and share your comments. Use our 800 line, 1-800-631-2893. Pastor Morris, thanks so much for stopping by this evening.
It's always a pleasure to be with you, sir.
And, we were talking before the program, and I said, well, I just don't really have a solid title for tonight's program, but I needed to have a dialogue with some people in the community about what is going on with our black teens. And I told you, I said, well, the reason I say that because every time I come in the afternoon to the radio station, I pick up the paper. It says black teen charged with this, black teen charged with that. If I look on the internet and I'm looking at newspapers from around the state, black teens charged with this, black teens arrested for that, and all of a sudden I'm like, well, what is going on? And when I'm at school, some of the kids are just acting out, and I'm asking myself, well, does that mean I'm getting older? Which of course I am, but what the heck is going on? And I just wanted to have a dialogue about all of this.
Well, it's a complex problem that we're facing. While we're looking at the results of years of raising children and changing culture, changing society, what we're seeing is the end product. Mm-hmm. It's not that the kids are bad, it's that they are being impacted in such a way by multiple cultures that's causing a tremendous problem for them to adjust. So we are actually facing what I call a mental health problem, mm-hmm. as more so than a criminal problem. Mentally, we've changed our value systems, and the value systems don't match up. When a pair of shoes is worth more than a human life, mm-hmm. that's a value decision. It shows up and acts out as a criminal act. And that's when it hits the paper and you see it. But there was a problem long before that occurred. So in many instances, our kids are suffering from post-traumatic stress. Mm-hmm. They've seen things that children shouldn't see. They've heard things that children shouldn't hear. And these things have begun to affect them socially and mentally. And subsequently, the end result is you get this blast in the paper saying the kid did this. This kid's problem has been untreated, undiagnosed, down through the years. His family is, as most families, all families are dysfunctional to a certain point of view, but the dysfunction gets out of control and nobody ever addresses what is happening to the child until he winds up going to court. Then we get real interested.
Right.
But there should be some serious dialogue as to what's happening in the lives of children and what impact it's having on them.
You say it's not a criminal problem, but that's what we see. And I say, when I say that's what we see, like, for example, when I say I come in the afternoon and I look at the paper, that's what I see. Or when I look on the internet, that's what I see when I say
that's the end results.
And it seems like we get more of that than it's a mental problem.
If you don't treat the mental anguish that kids are facing, unemployment within the family, underemployment, undereducated, all these are factors. Alcoholism, drugs, the need to possess and own things, a culture of wealth in the midst of poverty. All these things are steady impacting the child's life from the time they're born. And the end results of failure to look at how this child is being subliminally impacted winds up with his name in the paper. Then we see it. But this didn't just happen. It's been a process that made the child arrive at that point. Now, how do we address it? I have various ideas, but it's a very complex problem, and it's going to have to start with a younger generation.
Well, I'd like to hear a couple of those ideas.
Well, I think that perhaps going back to parenting classes,
okay,
looking at how we can reduce teenage pregnancy. You've got teenagers at an alarming rate giving birth. They are becoming parents. They do not possess the parenting skills. So we may need to look at offering parenting skills or requiring it at that age to give that person a chance to understand what the responsibility is to raise a child. It's more than just putting food on the table. It's about setting social standards. It's about setting limits around life and giving boundaries that support healthy living. But when mother is still interested in dating, and the child is just there now
with grandmother,
and now the child is passed on to some other family member to raise, this cannot serve well the mental image the child has of their self-worth. So, and it could be that along with the other family and the other encouragements. We've got a long ways away from the upbringing that you and I would have received 60-some years ago in the culture that we were brought up in. This is a totally different culture. And therefore, I say while we may see it materializing as a criminal problem, it's been a mental problem long before it became a criminal problem.
269-6785, that's the number to call. Reverend E. Baxter Morris is my guest. You can dial us up right now. Let's go to the phone lines and take a call from Robert in Montgomery. Robert, thanks for calling. You on the air.
Thank you, Rob Taylor. I admire you and Reverend Morris for the work you're trying to do.
Thank you.
And I agree that we don't have the proper attention given to the role models that are right around us these days. And it seems like we're preaching to the choir when we start talking about getting groups together. I don't know how we do that, and we got to get our young people's attention somehow, other than through sports and through the games, TV games and stuff like that. And it used to be you could get a group of kids out on the football field and teach them some lessons, or a baseball field. But now you don't have that anymore. But you got to get them where they are, I imagine. And that's one of the things that we need to do is find where the kids are and go to the kids, because they aren't going to come to us. And the role models that they have is these guys who with the gold chains and the fast money and the nice sounding cars and the records and all that stuff, and it's just taking all their attention away. And like you say, the tennis shoes, they just have a false direction of where they're going, but I don't know. We got to somehow get them back into the loop and let them know that there's a better life ahead of them, and some up there bigger than you and I that can help us. But how do we get them to the church? How do we get them to the school? How do they understand the school? That's a good question. We need to find out how can we most motivate these young people now.
Okay. Good comments, Robert.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
So how do we get – I like that. You got to get the young people's attention. How do you get their attention?
Well, I think there is no one pattern that works. You've got several churches here in Montgomery and several pastors here in Montgomery that have good programs. Mm-hmm. We've got to stop being competitors and start being colleagues.
Yeah.
No one church, no one organization has the single answer to everything. But we've got to back every good idea for the value that it's going to generate. Mm-hmm. So if I see an idea in another congregation that's working, I've got to give verbal and physical support to that idea. Just because I didn't think of it. Mm-hmm. I got to support the idea. And as we do this, we build pockets because not every child is going to come to every program.
Right.
But our sororities, our fraternities, our federated clubs, our churches, all these organizations that are out there that are community-based and have good ideas, we've got to start capitalizing on how those ideas are marketed.
Welcome back to 90.7 Perspectives on WVAS. I'm your host, Robb Taylor. In the studio with me, Reverend E. Baxter Morris, pastor of the First Baptist Church on North Ripley Street here in Montgomery. And we are joined now by Chief Deputy Derek Cunningham from the Montgomery County Sheriff's Department. Thanks so much for stopping by, Chief Deputy.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. I'm glad to be here.
I know you've heard some of what we've been discussing so far, and one of the reasons I wanted to ask you to come on and be a part of this dialogue, working with the Sheriff's Department, how does it make you feel when you see so many young black male teens being arrested, and some of them getting arrested time and time again?
Well, that's something that I guess since I started out at the police department, mm-hmm. I've seen this. And now being at the sheriff's office, you see it more and more. The thing that's concerning is that I think the parents need to be just as concerned as I am about it, mm-hmm. because these same kids are the same kids are being arrested time and time and time again, or getting in trouble time and time and time again. And I think the only way that we can make a change is if everybody that's concerned come to the table and at least try to find out what the problem is.
Mm-hmm. And that's something that Pastor Morris said. We need to come together, have that dialogue about this, because not one person just doesn't have the answer.
That's right.
And the caller said we need to get out there and get our kids back. In so many words, that's pretty much what he said, because we need to figure out a way how to get their attention. How do we get their attention?
I think that the first thing we got to do, we got to get our kids' attention when they're young. Mm-hmm. You know, so many kids now that by the time that we get to their attention, they're already 15 and 16 years old, and it's hard enough to try to get a child that's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 to be able to understand, stop, no, don't do that. Mm-hmm. But when you wait until that child is 15 and 16, they're in their teens. They're already pre-adults.
Yeah.
Then what do you do?
Mm.
So, and that's the main question, as far as trying to prevent that child from going on the bad side we got to do that at an early age. And then we got to stay with that child to make sure he or she don't go back and start doing those things again.
Hey, thanks to Chief Deputy Derek Cunningham and Pastor E. Baxter Morris as well. I'm Robb Taylor. Thanks so much for listening. We'll talk again next time.
You've been listening to 90.7 Perspectives with Robb Taylor. Join us next time for more evening cultural, political, and social chat with local and national public figures. Thanks for listening.